All right. So what we did, thanks for joining us. You're actually, while we're talking about technology, we are actually experimenting on you guys in technology. And this is our first webinar with the Broken Arrow Chamber. And so what we did, Zoom has two different options. You can either have a webinar or you can keep the really the general conference calling feature. And that's what we did here. So everybody was muted upon entry, as well as your video was stopped upon entry. We weren't sure how everybody would be dressed or whether they're wanting to share yourselves or not. So if you are comfortable and want to connect visually, you're going to click on the bottom of your corner, and you're going to share your video, start video. If you want to unmute yourself, you can click unmute and share audio. I recommend while you're in this process that you do not have audio on until our speakers will, so that if there's any phone calls, dogs barking, children interrupting or whatnot, cell phones ringing, we won't have that. So before, wanted to first thank you for joining us today. And we wanted to recognize, so we have sponsors that help us with our small business series, which we're adapting and pivoting and doing this virtually. So want to recognize some of our sponsors: GTR Media Group, Southwestern Payroll, IBT, Lamar Outdoor Advertising, Tulsa Tech, and the Tulsa Drillers, Arrows Exterminators, and High Tower Business Solutions. So they're all businesses doing their thing, and I know we're all pivoting and doing our thing. So, but today, most importantly, we are going to get to hear from Jared Lamb of NetLink Solutions and Sam Harper of VIP Technology Group. So Sam and Jared, we called them yesterday. So they are truly jumping in for us and helping us adapt. Sam's already helped me freshen up my appearance on here, which if you look in the chat, Sam told you if you can click and you can freshen yourself up, it gives you a little bit of that internet glow if you want that. And you won't be YouTube stars tomorrow, but at least it wants to help if you want. So we're gonna learn a few things today about networking and about sharing and the importance of remote working in this time. So we're gonna begin with Jared, who's gonna talk high level and join in. So Jared, I'm gonna mute myself and I am gonna head on over to you. Oh, you're muted. Do I unmute you? Yes. You're unmuted now.
Oh, hey everybody. Yeah, so again, I'm Jared Lamb with NetLink Solutions. And so I'm gonna kind of give a story about what we have done. And yes, we're a tech company. And so, yeah, we've had a lot of these thoughts in our heads. And so it's just kind of going to share everything that's kind of happened over the last week in our world and kind of the importance of what we're seeing in industry across Tulsa. So a week ago, Sunday, one of our customers ended up on the news Sunday night saying that they ended up with a confirmed case of COVID-19. So that kind of sent a small little panic in our world. And then we hear the news of Vegas. Let me repeat that. Vegas thought it was necessary to shut down. Vegas. That is their whole thing, is about money, and the fact that they took some stock into what people were saying. It kind of changed a lot of people's perspective. So on Monday, we kind of came in and started to dispersing the troops. And since then, we've seen the CDC, the president, a ton of different organizations, public health, that says, hey, you guys need to stay away. You need to be able to work remotely. And so we've learned a lot in the last few days, I guess, on what we learned. The first thing we learned is, yes, most of our meetings can be emails. We have learned that first and foremost. I know that's kind of in satire, but it really does attribute a lot to how communication is going to be vital throughout the next coming weeks, months, however long this takes. The second thing is you're going to have to get a whole new level of trust with your employees, because they're not going to be physically in front of you to be able to manage, talk to, and a lot of the communication pieces that we're accustomed to are no longer there. And then if we work all together, obviously, we're going to make it through. I've been working with a lot of my customers and a lot of potential customers throughout this time, kind of helping, coaching, giving some thought process on how this is all going to be done. Sam's going to talk here in just a little bit of the technical how-tos and some of the tools that you can use. And so I'm really going to be kind of challenging the idea of what is the workplace? I make a joke about, going to the office. What's that anymore? Is we need to define what the four walls need to be anymore. The first one, working, whether you have decided to keep your employees working, or if you're thinking about taking them and letting them work from home, the camper. I've seen some people work in campers lately because they think that that's a pretty good way to quarantine themselves. The bunker, whatever your choice is, allow that freedom. We've allowed it, but a lot of the tools that you need to use during this uncertainty is trying to base some type of normalcy through all of this. So we have a lot of new assigned trust, a lot of new communication paths that Sam's really going to dive into with things that may be available to you now and you're not aware of, or some of the things that are out there that are either free or paid or however you want to do that. But really striving on allowing some of those freedoms to allow your employees to complete their job in an environment that they feel is safe forever, how long this is. We've allowed some of our employees to take some of the company property home. I know it seems counterintuitive to allow printers and such to go out, but if you're cutting checks or if you're doing these different things and you have the ability and the trust level and everything there, allow that process to happen, to allow them to almost build an essential nest over there for the duration of this period that we're seeing. And so we're using the same technology that we offer and that other companies have the access to be able to manage and keep our business going as strong as we can during this time. That piece of normalcy and giving resources, that's going to depend from wildly different industries and scenarios and everything else that we have to deal with, but try to provide that encouragement of that sense of normalcy so that they can complete the task. Because again, we're all having to make sacrifices to stay in the same game that we were before in the aspects of mental health and just being cooped up at home and having to really live with our families a lot more, and that includes working. With that being said, when you do have employees at home and they're doing this, the accountability is going to need to be stronger, and the collaboration tools that are out there are great. There are a lot of things that you can do that you can get a lot of real-time answers as if they were just in the office. And I really want to stress the point in the last week for us here at this office. I'm currently at my office, but my entire staff is at home, and I'm here just mainly for deliveries at this point in time with FedEx and UPS. But that over communication and really striving and trying to give people that ability to communicate and be heard and felt heard. And then when they need to hear, they have that ability as well so that they can keep performing. Because again, with all the uncertainties, the last thing you want to do is have communication be the downfall of your organization. Use the free technologies when available. Google Ideas. This is a great resource now that the chamber is providing, is having a couple people that do this on a day-to-day basis talk about the things that we do to make this available as if this is another day at the office. I mean, if it wasn't COVID-19, it could be a storm. It could have been a snowpocalypse or whatever it could have been. But the scenario does start to change on challenging the idea of where's that workplace and some of the tools that you could have and abilities to do that. The other big thing is to find your groove. There is a transitional period with all of this. If you guys haven't made the transition from the office to home with your employee base, that's going to be a whole nother level of management. It's checking in and making sure that people are logged in at 8 versus being in the office at 8. There's a lot of different variables that you just kind of assume that you don't really think about until you haven't heard from somebody in a couple hours and you start questioning what they've been doing and what they haven't been doing. But allowing that groove and allowing people to, again, I know I keep harping on that whole communication piece, but this is where a lot of this is going to come down to. And then I would probably say, along with that communication, is try to be as positive as you can. I know that you guys have seen all the news articles, all the information, misinformation, updated information. When you are communicating, try to keep it as positive as possible, because people are really striving right now to use this opportunity to define what the workplace is, and then how does that build on the culture that we all were accustomed to beforehand. So I think that's a massive issue that I'm seeing is keeping people positively motivated through this time. Get creative when on taking your money. I know this seems very, very simple, but we're starting to offer, ACH. We've always done credit card, like most people do, but this may be a time for people to start looking at how are you going to interact with your customers. How is it the easiest way to pay? Because I know that's an uncertainty for a lot of people, especially when they had a lot of foot traffic or that affects because of city ordinances and obvious CDC and presidential guidelines. So get creative with that. Again, there's a lot of ways to do that, but these are just some things that we've seen just in that remote work efficiency section of our world that we're trying to kind of navigate ourselves. And we're seeing a lot of our customers starting to transition to these type of variations of the normalcy. The other big issue that we're seeing is just because we're all now working from home doesn't mean that the security risks are no longer there. Emails are probably going to get more specific. They're going to get more targeted, because what's going to end up happening is people are now even in a more distracted state than they ever have been, because they're trying to listen to the news. They're trying to listen to what people are doing and how people are doing this. This is one of the things that you guys probably should start looking into. If you haven't invested in a good spam filter and an AI that's on your email, you might want to take a look into that, because again, you really want to start protecting that, because the last thing you want to do is get infected with any kind of a virus or malware or any type of negative impact on your business than what we're already seeing. If you're using free antivirus, let's switch off of that. I'm sure that Sam's got a ton of options for that as well, but that is something that I feel is extremely important, especially since a lot of people that I'm seeing are working off of home PCs and they're working inside of networks that they normally wouldn't have access to. Take that into play as you're also kind of navigating this challenge. And then simply pick up the phone. If you get an email that has any kind of PO information or any kind of a sales order that you weren't expecting and from a customer that you haven't heard from in a while, please do yourself the favor, make the phone call and verify that that's real before you open it and take a look at everything. From a security perspective, a lot of people are going to be very eager to make a sale, to be able to be that production. So take those into account. And then the last kind of section I want to talk about is that effective leadership and team motivation. Just like we're doing now, huddle meetings, stand-up meetings, 5-minute check-ins. These things are vital right now. Like, we're having an unprecedented time that we don't get to see each other. And it's, for extroverts like myself, it's not a good space for us to be. We thrive on people, we thrive on that communication. And being stuck in this office is, like, I'm glad to see you guys. That's all I'm saying. This is a great time for me, and a great time for me to kind of share that we do these type of things with our team now, along with some of the other ideas. And you don't have to use Zoom. This is a very great platform, and we personally use it, but there's other meeting spaces that you can use to kind of continue that collaboration and actually see the whites of people's eyes, which is a very, very important thing for a lot of people, especially since that sense of community, a big portion of what they do in a given week, is now gone, and now they're sitting kind of isolated by themselves. I know I've said encourage communication, but I can't stress that enough. I try to get my team and my staff, and then communicating to my boss and to my customers as much as we can, because again, without having those face-to-face meetings, there's a lot of things that are left in, almost in that transitional text. We all know that, you can lose a little bit of that communication piece just by writing an email, because it could come off in a completely different way than you expected. And so that's something that we're trying to do, and make sure that we clarify if something is misconstrued, is people not take a immediate offense to anything that may come off wrong, because that might be something that is a piece that you jump on a Zoom call, or you jump on, one of your messengers, and then you guys really kind of have that ability to connect at that point, to really clarify some of those issues, especially when there's tough business decisions that need to be made, and sometimes they're more complex than what an email and what a text message could do. So I really, really, really think that that's going to be a major point for a lot of companies as we keep going. giving praise. One of the things with this communication is I feel like a lot of companies don't give enough encouragement and praise to their employees when things are in a tough time. And I think this is a massive time to keep that culture alive within organizations. And if you are a person that gives praise easily, congratulations. That's awesome. Keep it up. I want to encourage you absolutely to keep doing that. And if you're not one of those people, you might want to try it, because again, it may be one of those things where it may, challenge you to step out of your box just a little bit enough to have that conversation, to be like, hey, this has been a great job. I really appreciate this. And, some of the small little nuggets to keep people feeling like they've been valued throughout the situation, because again, this was spawned on them as just as much as it was on the business leaders and impactors of our community. So keep that in mind. Try to do some, with that encouragement, see if you can do some types of celebrations. I'm a part of the LBA this year, and I thought it was kind of cool. Just right before this meeting, we're going to do a virtual happy hour, which I think is amazing, and for me is going to be a nice little outlet. And I think that that's something that, along those lines of celebrating, is instead of just telling the person that they did something well, let's maybe take it to the team and send an email out, or send some kind of an acknowledgement that they've done something above and beyond in this time of need. Because again, we're in unprecedented times. We've never seen where we've all had to sit in essentially four walls for any matter of time for this reason, where we can't even communicate on a normal level. So I really want to strive that. Most of what I'm really trying to drive into is creating this sense of normal. And thinking about from a business perspective is, are you able to even maintain this kind of environment with the virtual work or with other things that you guys have going? If that's going to be a difficult bridge, you might want to start contemplating that, because we don't know about this, and two, if this does keep going, how long is it going to be? And then once this is all over, as we see China starting to see days without new cases, and it's starting to seem positively show that there are some light at the end of the tunnel, are you guys going to maintain this, or are you going to draw everybody back? So that's going to be another ball of yarn to untangle, is what are we going to do, and start thinking about those transitional periods of when we're going to start bringing people back into the office place. Or is this working so well that you're going to decide that this is going to be the new norm for you, and then you're going to change your business model or allow other things to happen that you normally wouldn't have? But just some things that I have seen in the last 7 days, 8 days of my life and within my organization that I thought would be pertinent to share, especially with helping our company get to a virtual base and helping our customers get to a virtual base. So at this point, I'm going to pass it over to Sam so he can kind of start diving into some of the tools that you guys may already have access to, or some tools that you haven't thought of to be able to use to keep your business strong and thriving during this.
Yeah, hello everyone. I agree with Jared. This is nice to have everybody get together. So I'm Sam Harper, VIP Technology Solutions Group. I kind of put together some things that we've been doing for our businesses, both who already have the software or need the software to start doing teleconferences and working remote. So we also support a lot of medical facilities. So having to do the telemedicine so doctors can still continue to do their checkups. A lot of guidelines and restrictions, regulations on that have been lifted so that doctors can start doing some telemedicine. First thing I would do is talk about Office 365. A lot of companies already have this software in their arsenal and just don't use it to their full utilization. If you don't have Office 365, you can go to, go ahead and do a screen share here for everybody. So I put together a kind of a cheat sheet here and I'll share this with everybody later and when you get everybody's email address, or you can email me. And this is kind of a step of how to sign up for Office 365 on your own. It does allow you to do a trial version for 30 days. It does require you to put in a credit card, but won't charge you until the end of that 30 days. When you do, or even before you get to the end of the 30 days, you can, and I know I'm scrolling through this quickly, it's just a lot of screenshots of each screen as you move forward. But when you do get to the point where you've signed up, you can then extend your 30 days for another 30 days. I've even called in at the end of that 60 days to the Microsoft sales and requested another 30 days for trial, and they'll typically give it to you. So you can get usually up to 90 days on that. So if you want more information on that, just email me and I'll share that click through. Also, if you work with a nonprofit or know nonprofits, if they become a member, if they're a 501c3 and become a member of TechSoup, they can then apply for free licensing with Office 365. And they usually get up to about 25 users, but you can also request for additional users. I've seen them go up to almost 100. So with Microsoft Office 365 on the teleconferences, you have Microsoft Teams, and then now they also have what's called Teams Live Event. And Zoom and a lot of the other tele-video conferencing have the same features. But if you already own Office 365, you don't have to go out and buy additional licensing or other programs. You have that already built into your system. And it's a great tool for communicating internally and also communicating with other organizations that have Office 365. But when you get into external users, there can be some limitations if you don't have that advanced support in the background to set up your external communications, where it requires phone numbers to call in. There's a lot of technical support that's required with Office 365 that it's kind of built in to Zoom already, where Zoom has the call-in numbers when you sign up for the account, has the support that you can call in. But if you already have Teams, it's a good tool to use internally. Accessing your information remotely. With Office 365, you can use what's called Sharepoint, which is basically your server in the cloud. If you're in an infrastructure that already has on-site servers, there's some migration tools that you can use to combine your local server with Azure AD, putting all your files online, then giving you the ability to allow your employees to access all of their files offsite. With that tool, though, again, takes a lot of back-end support. So with an internal IT department, they could make that migration. It's not something that you could do just right away, but it is convenient to have. For instance, in our office right now, currently, we're supported all on Office 365, so I have unlimited access to all of the files that I need, as well as additional tools with Office 365 where if I want to go look at a team member and all the files that he and I share directly, we can do that. And it's a great way to see what your other team members are working on, how you're working together. It gives you a lot of analytics and the security that Jared referenced. Are your employees logged in? For instance, cabinet manufacturing facility we support, they send all their office employees home, and he can see when they log in the morning, he can see what files they're accessing throughout the day. He can see whenever they're timed out with no activity in their browsers. So a lot of features that give you with the Office 365 that most people just use for email and maybe some file sharing, OneDrive, Office Suite, that they already own all those features by just doing a little bit more management in the cloud. I don't know if many of you have VPNs in your office. Some commercial grade, if you already have commercial grade routers in your office, you may already have the ability to turn on a VPN so that you can allow your users off-site to access it. Jared spoke to this a little bit. You run a risk when you do that on people's home computers because you're giving a gateway between their computer and your office that could cause a virus instance or a malicious attack through their system. So it's usually best to provide your own in-house equipment for that environment. Let's see. So the easiest and again, another free product to give somebody remote access to their computer is Chrome Remote Desktop. It's not the most secure, but it is free. I understand that right now, who knows when the next invoice is going to get sent out for some of us, and where that billing's going to come from. So it's hard to sign up for anything that might cost us additional funds. So remote desktop, the Chrome remote desktop is a good tool for that. Depending on if you're wanting both a remote access tool and a video conferencing tool, you can use a product like Teamviewer that would give you both access to your computer and also has built-in tools to do the type of meeting we're doing right now. So with Teamviewer, it's the best of both worlds, gives you phone numbers that people can use to call in from external phones. They don't have to have a Teamviewer account. With Teams, we have tested this just recently. We had a county facility that's wanting to be able to broadcast to multiple people. Teams and Zoom, I believe, will both do up to 10,000 users. If you wanted to do something that both would reach to more than 10,000 users and is recallable, then we'd recommend like a YouTube channel where you can post a live video and then have it there to be recalled from in the future sense. Let's see. So as we move forward, and as most people understand, if they're an architecture firm or an engineering firm and they send their employees home, usually their hardware at home doesn't have the resources to work in that type of environment. Additional, upgraded video cards and additional hardware that's needed to run some of that software. This is a time where companies might want to start looking into Citrix Zen Desktop or VMware Horizon. And it's a VDI solution. It works a little bit different than, say, like your Teamviewer or Go to My PC or a VPN with an RDP session. And I know those are a whole lot of technical terms that some people are like, maybe that's too much. But it is something that your company might look into if they need a lot of resources for the software or the projects that they're working on, is a Citrix or VMware environment. And it gives a really high quality production value environment for those types of users when needed. Just to kind of name some more of the virtual meeting software, you have Join Me, WebEx, this Zoom here. And then we also provide a product that's Session Meeting. It's something that we use with our medical facilities that has end-to-end encryption and allows them to meet with a patient and know that what they're doing is secure. Again, Jared talked about this a little bit with the culture and Office 365. It has a lot of benefits for building an intranet for your office. Whenever they come in and they log into their Office 365 for the first time, they get a landing page that you can update daily with information that's going on in your company and communicating with them and building that culture within your company and using this experience that we're all going through as a way to build that. Within that same platform, you could be educating your team on upcoming projects that you're doing or information that you're needing to get out to your team. And then with Praise, you can use Yammer. Office 365 has its own little Facebook type portal that gives you all the Praise tools, little trophy icons that you can give to everybody. So that's really it for me. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, again, if you want to either unmute yourself or type a chat-in question while people are preparing that, I do want to say thank you to both Jared and Sam. One of the things that I want to circle back what you said is so the chamber, we have 10 employees on staff and we split us. So there's about five working remotely and 5 in the office and keeping our distance. And one of the things that has been hardest is really upkeeping the morale, right? And video chat has helped us. So every day we have a set Zoom meeting at 9 o'clock. We all play around with our backgrounds. We joke, we laugh. We use Microsoft Teams. And of course, for me as a leader, allowing funny chats and comments on that is really important just as much, to keep that morale that would be that office relationship and friendships going in a time that we're isolated, right? In time that we're having to deal with challenges in front of us as an organization or as a community. And so, you know, all of these virtual tools are incredibly important, not only just to make sure work keeps going, but make sure relationships keep going. And I like both your points about whether we're, you know, what does the future look like? Well, you know, we've learned that we can meet on a video conference call and save, you know, 15 to 20 minutes of transportation time for people. We've learned that technology can ensure that our businesses can keep going, some of us. And technology is also the way that we're promoting those businesses who are having to, you know, to maybe make the tough decisions and shut their doors temporarily, and utilizing all different platforms to support one another is incredibly important. I would say one thing I've learned when I'm doing this is do get on with your team and experiment and learn it before you are on the call with somebody more important and having to manage a client or and knowing all the special ways so that you are professional when you're dealing with it is important. So, you know, we had our team in here, we got a fancy backdrop, and, you know, we worked on several things to make sure that we did this right for you guys. And I recommend that when you're dealing with, when you're getting ready to talk to a prospective client or a client or anyone important, that you look professional and you know what you're doing in that. And I don't know if everyone saw the video that went around yesterday. Poor Jennifer. Just don't be Jennifer. Don't take the phone with you to the bathroom. That's all I have to say on that. Did everyone see that? Sorry. I'll share that later in my chat. So we'll take questions. If you want to unmute your video or unmute, I think I can let everybody unmute. I think I allow that. Unmute all. All right. You're all unmuted. That's scary. I don't know if I should do that. If you want to unmute and ask a question, feel free. Maybe any questions specifically? Come on, some good ones.
Can you hear me? Jason Stevens,
Yes.
Broken Arrow Chamber here. So, by the way, I think you really need to specify when you talk about the poor Jennifer video that it's not you, because whenever you mentioned that earlier, I was like, what did you do? Anyway, great information, fellas. I was just wondering, because whenever I started using, Jennifer actually asked me a week or two ago to kind of research some of these different softwares and things when it comes to these visual meetings that we're doing. And I know that Zoom was the one obviously we decided to go with, but I know you rattled off some other ones. Which one do you think is the best one out of your opinion, if you didn't already tell us?
User-friendly, Zoom is definitely your widest used, but I've had great experiences with WebEx and Microsoft Teams, but sometimes they take a little bit more user experience than, say, Zoom does.
Okay.
I would actually follow up on that is you can also have a mobile app with Zoom, and so that will also release some of the requirements of having a PC set up or having to log in, because you can just use your work address as well. And so you could catch people, especially if they're still mobile, because you know, we do have a lot of people that are still mobile going to clients and doing what they need to do. So that also allow those people who are out of the office, which could be something that sticks going forward, is using something like this to incorporate those people who normally their voice is lost. But that's one reason why we use Zoom, is because if somebody is not necessarily at their computer, you also have that ability from a mobile perspective.
Okay.
And I don't know any others that do the airbrush, so.
Well, and that's what we've utilized that for our staff is if you have an iPad or an iPhone, but the laptop that they're working on or computer doesn't have the microphone web camera, they're able to just join us in our calls on that. One thing too, I thought found, and I don't know if y'all was helpful, in Microsoft Teams, you can just do a quick video chat. So it kind of mimics when you used to pop into somebody's office. You can just pop into their office virtually instead of sending a chat, but you can just send them and they can pop up and you can talk via video if you do have your webcam. So some of those things really help with social distancing. Even if you're in your offices and there's other people in the office, you can limit contact that way as well.
So Brandy posted over here about about virus prevention. Do you have any favorites, computer viruses? We use a product called Sophos, and they have a free home version that does pretty well. Normally, I'm very much against free antivirus because there's a reason why it's free, but they do have a solid home one if that's an option. But I would say start there. Trend is another reputable one that's not. I would try to stay away from. I don't want to bash any customer, so I guess I would stay away from like a web root. I haven't had a whole lot of experience, positive experience on that front, but Sam may have some other ones as well.
We're resellers of ESET, E-S-E-T. It's a European software, and then we're also a reseller for what's called SentinelOne. And the reason why we went to SentinelOne is because even ESET and even your leading malware protection software out there doesn't stop a encryption virus. You won't know that you've been encrypted until after everything's done, and then a file comes up that tells you how to recover your encryption. And then your antivirus software says, oh, hey, there's a file on here that has to do with malware or encryption virus. The ESET comes up whenever you first, try to download something, and it warns you, hey, you're downloading something dangerous. But if you tell it to go ahead, no, I know that this is good. It's come from somebody, a good person. I get attachments with them all the time. And 30 minutes later, all the computers in your office are encrypted. So if you give end users that administrative access, then you run the risk of encrypting your machine, and then any path that's networked to their computer is also encrypted. Along with, if you have your backup drive plugged into your network right now, it's going to get encrypted, and all of your shadow copies are going to get written over. So make sure that you have a duplicate backup that's not plugged into your network. If you don't do offsite backups, I was in a facility doing a walkthrough the other day, and that was the number one thing I wouldn't leave until they backed up their server that wasn't plugged into their server, because their backup drive was plugged into the server. And it's, you just can't have that type of scenario, or you run the risk of losing everything. And why I highlighted SentinelOne is because it actually stops that malware, that virus from attacking that computer, disconnects it from the network, locks it down from being encrypted and encrypting the other computers. But it's the difference of $1 a month versus $10 a month between ESET and SentinelOne. So you pay for that protection. But they do up to $1,000 per workstation. If your files do get encrypted, they'll pay up to $1,000 of the ransom per workstation.
Those all applicable for Apple and HP, or just
both, and Linux. So yeah, you can put that for Mac, Linux, or Windows. And even with your mobile devices, I've seen environments where people have downloaded an attachment, nothing ever happened on their mobile device. They go to plug in their phone to their computer to back up their computer. And when they do the backup, that file then infiltrates their computer and infects their computer. So be careful about the files that you download on your phone if you back up to your workstations.
All right. Well, that's, if anybody have any other questions, via chat or speak now, or forever hold till, but we're going to send the contact information to you guys as participants, both Jared and Sam. And we're so thankful for both their companies making the commitment to our members doing this for absolutely free. Thank you guys for all that you do. And we do tomorrow's webinar is with the Small Business Administration. They're actually having a private one for the Broken Arrow Chamber of Commerce members. So you'll ask your questions about, as you know, Oklahoma has been declared a disaster for this. So we're eligible, our small businesses are eligible, nonprofits are eligible if you're a private nonprofit, for disaster relief loans. And so that SBA will be talking about the process for that. And then on Thursday, we'll be having a panel of an HR with Insperity, Greg Graham for First National Bank, and Scott Wise, who's an entrepreneur and small business owner, of many businesses, all who, him himself is passionate, is navigating the challenges. And so we're going to talk about how to navigate these challenges in front of us as small business owners, available financing and ways to kind of bridge this gap if you're seeing a reduction in your business, and then also HR, how to have some of those hard conversations and decisions, and when do you start making some of the more difficult decisions regarding employees and whatnot. So encourage you to be a part of that one. That's at 10 o'clock on Thursday. The SBA is tomorrow at 10, and you can register online. So thank you, everybody, and stay safe. And I know the governor just talked, so may want to log on and see what he had to say. Have a blessed rest of your day.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you.